Welcome to another episode of the 24/7 Sports College Basketball Show. I'm your host, Adam Finkelstein, and I'm joined by Eric Bossi and Travis Branham. We are getting ready for a very busy week on the recruiting trail. The July Live period, as it has affectionately been known for years, returns this week on Thursday, which means every circuit is in action, in addition to a few other things. And we are going to be on the road for the better part of the next 3 weeks. We are going to use this show to preview what college basketball fans need to know about that time, where coaches are going to be, what some of the big events are, and what you need to know about those big events. And we're going to start with the event that actually is started today on Tuesday, and that is the Adidas 3SSB Championship. These championships are going down in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Now, this comes after 3 regular season sessions that were held in Alabama, Texas, and Iowa. We've all attended one of those sessions. So, guys, the way I want to approach this discussion for all the circuits is to talk about who some of the best players may be and then who the favorites might be, because all of these circuits are going to be crowning a champion in the next week or two. So, Bossi, I'm going to start with you. We know a lot of the big name players on this circuit, guys like Darren Peterson, Nate Ament, Mikhail Brown. We've talked about so many of them. Is there any individual player you've got your eyes on this week in South Carolina?
There's plenty of them. I think if you bring up the great ones with Nate Ament, Mikhail Brown, Koa Pete, assuming he plays
Right.
after returning from USA Basketball, all of them are really intriguing to me. But you know who I kind of want to see the most is Elijah Arenas after he missed the spring and the summer, the class of 2026 top 5 player. He was healthy or on his way to being healthy-ish at USA Basketball. So
Right.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do, presumably now fully healthy, in a summer team setting and back up that top 5 status. The son of Gilbert Arenas, he's obviously got the NBA pedigree. He's 6'6". He's strong. He's long. He can score from all over. I'm really excited to see how he looks in a team setting.
All right. Now, of course, Caleb Holt there from the class of 2026 as well. Trav, I'm going to turn this attention to you. And then, guys, I want to talk about some of the top contenders in this league. But, Trav, anyone in that 3SSB circuit that you are particularly interested in seeing this week?
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see how Zach Foster, he was a player that broke out, I would say, made a statement earlier this spring, playing with the Atlanta Celtics 17s group. A very talented, 6'3", long, athletic guard that has really shown some impressive flashes on both ends of the court. Now, he hasn't had the most productive or consistent summer, and I would say his recruitment has been a little quiet, more quiet than I would anticipate up to this point. But I watched him again last week or 2 weeks ago at the GBCA Southeast Regional, where he was playing with his high school team, and he continued to show some impressive flashes on both ends of the court, leading the way for his Woodward Academy team. So come this weekend, I'm anticipating to see just how well he plays. How well does he finish out this summer? And do more schools come calling?
All right, now, guys, the question now becomes, which team do you like? Because, again, as I said, this is about a pursuit of a championship. So college coaches are out in full force beginning Thursday. The Adidas event tips on Tuesday. It's open to NBA scouts and media for 2 days before the college coaches come in. But this is all heading towards culminating with a champion of this circuit on Sunday. And this is the big crown that these kids are playing towards, in addition to the exposure to college coaches. The team that I'm going to mention, and then I'll ask each of you if there's a contender that you have your eye on. I'm very interested in team loaded Virginia. We've talked a lot about Nate Ament. He played his way into the top 10 this year. He had a huge showing at DMV Live in the first week of the Scholastic period, which I saw firsthand. His recruitment is now at straight blue blood status. We talked about how he could continue to move up in the rankings. I think he's done his part in that so far. Now, the last step remaining for me is I want to see if he can lead his team to winning at the highest level here. We know he's not going to be a finished product, but he is on an absolutely loaded squad. No pun intended, as Trav would say. But this squad is as good as advertised with Caden Magwood and others in the backcourt. There's more than a 1-2 punch. There's arguably a high major player at each position. So Team Loaded Virginia is the squad that I am really interested to see if they can contend for this championship. Bossi, is there a team that you would list among the favorites at 3SSB this week?
Well, you stole my thunder with Team Loaded Virginia, who I think we could make a strong argument is as good as any team in the country, regardless of circuit affiliation. But another one who's in that conversation among the very best, regardless of circuit, is Indiana Elite,
Mm.
who they definitely the best shooting team I've seen all summer long. And they've got a pretty impressive big three of their own with Braylon Mullins, Malachi Moreno, and Trent Sisley. They will draw as big a crowd as any team in the country will draw. They'll have blue bloods, high majors, you name it. You know, Mullins is a top 25 shooting guard now. Malachi Moreno is a top 30 big man. And I think Trent Sisley, he's a, you know, a pure shooting 6'7" power forward who kind of took a little bit of a drop in the rankings. And just from hearing through the grapevine, it doesn't sound like he's too happy about falling in the rankings a little bit, which we never mind that a little. We never mind that. And I think he's going to be coming out with a little extra something to prove. So Indiana Elite is a team that's really got a lot of my attention, and I can't wait to see them when I get there on Saturday.
All right, Trav, assuming that we picked two of your favorites, who else would you put on championship watch at 3SSB?
Yeah, you absolutely both stole my top two picks here. But I guess I'm gonna have to roll with the Compton Magic. Assuming Koa Pete is back, it's a team that possesses a lot of talent out west, and then you've got arguably the best player on the circuit on your team. So can Koa come back energized, refreshed, and lead this team on a charge here? And then also can't count out a team that could really surprise a lot of people, which is Power Five, led by Jamarian Bateman. We've all watched this team several times, and they are just fun to watch with just how competitive they are, how hard they play on both ends of the court, every single play. There's no plays off. And the way the Jamarian scores the basketball, they are dangerous and they can knock out a team early.
Yep, Devin Brown, Amari Allen make up that supporting cast. Couldn't agree more. That is what you have to know about 3SSB. Again, it tips today, Tuesday, and it'll go all the way through the weekend. College coaches will be there Thursday through Sunday. NBA scouts are there the first 2 days. All right, guys, with the live period officially tipping on Thursday, one of the themes of this week is many of the events are located kind of in a 4-hour radius from each other. And outside of Atlanta, we have the Under Armour Association. They are actually going to run two different circuit stops this month. The first session 3 of their regular season will be at Lake Point, about 45 minutes outside of Atlanta, with their championship a week later in Chicago. So I'm going to do the same thing here, guys. We're going to talk about one player each that we're excited to see, and then a team who we think could contend for the whole thing. Bossi, I will start with you. Is there a player that you are particularly interested in the Under Armour Association?
Yeah, you know, I hate to go with the obvious here, but the highest ranked player on the circuit in their 17U division is Bryson Tiller, who ranks number 15 overall, power forward out of Overtime Elite. I'm curious to see him for a couple reasons. For one, I think he would probably be the first to admit that his junior year at Overtime probably didn't go as well as he would have liked to. And then secondly, he's been kind of battling some injuries, pardon me, this spring. So we've not really gotten to see him at his fullest yet. And then the other thing is, while we know that he's got all these big time offers out there, we know he's taken visits to Kansas. We know he's visited Indiana, Providence. We know there's some others like Auburn, Alabama, Michigan, North Carolina, whoever involved. What Bryson has not done to this point is speak specifically about schools that are involved with him. Now, my understanding is that we're going to get a better idea of who's really after him in terms of which head coaches watch him. And Bryson is supposedly going to actually start talking to specific schools. So seeing how he can bounce back after a little bit of an off junior year and some injuries in the spring, and then hearing straight from his mouth a little more clarity on his recruiting is something I'm really looking forward to.
All right, Trav, who were you most interested in seeing at the Under Armour Association?
Yeah, there's a handful of guys that I just want to get updated looks at. See how Davis Vogel does on the Under Armour rise. So he was one of the biggest risers in the 2025 class for us, just committed to Gonzaga. He impressed at NBA Top 100 camp, so I want to see how he continues with his Seattle Select team. Also very anxious to see Jordan Scott, another guy that really impressed my NBA Top 100 camp. It was actually my first time getting to see him live, so really looking forward to see just him in a different type of setting, being the most talented player on his team. Again, playing for, if I'm not mistaken, the UA Rise portion of the circuit. Very talented, just cut his list down to 3. And in my opinion, late bloomer, has all the physical tools, and the shot looks pretty. See some flashes of potential just as a 3-and-D guy. And then lastly, Simon Walker. Watched him at GBCA Southeast Regional, was one of the top performers, hands down, across the entire weekend. A 6'4" combo guard that can shoot the crap out of the basketball, has range, a guy that will fly off screens. You can't ever take your eye off him because he is going to leave his man in the dust and immediately get that shot off very, very quickly. And then also showing a lot of playmaking and passing potential there. So those are just several of the guys that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, Davis Fogel's the guy for me. When I attended the first session in Rock Hill, South Carolina, not all of the UA Rise teams were in attendance, so I didn't get to see him play. He's obviously blown up in the 2 months since, made his commitment. But the question for us still is like, where exactly does he belong in this national class? So I'm looking forward to being able to evaluate him and kind of seeing many of these guys in successive days where you can see them back to back to back. All right, now we got to talk about the teams that we think could contend for the UAA championship. Bossi, I'm going to start with you. Who is on your title watch in the Under Armour Association?
Well, you're going to get a very non-committal answer from me. I have not seen the UA circuit yet this year, so I'm kind of walking in here flying blind and on who the favorites are going to be. So, I think if we look at the past as an indicator, the Middlesex Magic has been pretty tough to bet against, and they've got a guy, Ryder Frost, who stormed his way into our national rankings. Saw him at the NBPA Top 100 camp. Strong, can really shoot it. I know he's going to draw a crowd of coaches. So Middlesex Magic, just based off of previous experience and how they seem to be doing so far this year, is one that I've got my eye on.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback that before I turn it over to you, Trav, because, Mike Crotty, they led the team to the Under Armour Association Championship last year. I think it was only their second or third year on the circuit. They were an independent team for years before that. I'd be remiss if I didn't say he is now running the program that his father started. So just a terrific tribute to him. This is a team that I think has 9 or 10 Division I players. Ryder Frost is the one who's really blown up, but they've had other guys blow up on mid-major levels, guys who have 10 plus Division I offers. And so they are deep, they are well coached, and they really execute. So I would agree that they are certainly a favorite. Trav, is there a team that you think could make a run in 2 weeks' time in Chicago for the UAA championship?
Honestly, I'm in the exact same position as Bossi here. This is my first time being able to make it out to the Under Armour circuit this spring and summer. So I'm going in blind here. Obviously, would anticipate some of the traditional powers, like you guys stated, Middlesex Magic, Team Thrill. I just, again, was in Atlanta for the GBCA Southeast Regional, and Huntsville has several players. The high school team has several players playing for Pro 1. And they were very, very impressive to me, just as a high school team. So that could be a team that could be a sneaky pick. But again, going in blind here, so looking forward to see what we got.
All right, let me run down a couple of these contenders. Arizona Select, Michael Simcoe and Kingston Rossi, definitely a team to watch. Bossi mentioned Bryson Tiller. Can he lead Arizona Express to a championship run? That'll be really interesting. B-Mays Elite from Tennessee. They've got DeAndre Lindsay, Cortez Graham Howard, Shane Cherry, Preston Wade, and some others. Team Thrill, who's been a staple of the Under Armour Association for years. Going to be really interesting. A lot of it's going to come down to whether Chance Mallory is healthy or not. One of the most efficient point guards in the country. Marcus Jackson, an athletic big man who's certainly impactful there. And then you got to keep an eye on programs like Texas Impact with King Grace, and of course West Coast Elite with Mozzie Mosley. We Are One with Adrian Stevens. Those are going to be some of the contenders, as well as some of the programs that are going to draw some of the biggest lines of college coaches. All right, I want to talk about two other events. And Trav, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Every year we talked about how there's basically like a 4-hour radius, Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas all set up, kind of ranging from the greater Atlanta area to the greater Charlotte area. And it makes it convenient for college coaches. Also within that triangle, if you will, the NBA Academy is running an event. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this will start on Wednesday at Holy Innocents High School in Atlanta. They started doing this a handful of years ago, and since they've started this, I mean, it has just been a massive success. Every single July, players blow up. Going back to, I think, a player we are all extremely familiar with, and Ben Mathurin, went on to Arizona, heard his name called in the NBA draft. Terry Darlin. Still haven't figured out how to properly say his name. I keep getting told different ways, but he blew up at the NBA academies just 2 years ago, where he then went on to play for the G League Ignite. Last year, we had Johnny Furphy, committed to Kansas shortly after, reclassified, has now heard his name as a first-round pick. And so this year runs from Wednesday all the way through Sunday. It has become a staple event for college coaches all across the country to go to. I am anticipating two big men really having a very impactful week and opening a lot of eyes. And that is Julius Halifanua, a big man playing for the NBA Global Academy, nearly 7 feet tall, big, strong, extremely skilled, very smart, impacts the game as an inside-out scorer and can really facilitate and pass the basketball out of the high post. And then Mohamed Silla, a big man out of the NBA Latin America Academy, a run and jump big man who blocks shots, rebounds, impacts the game as a defender, but also has some budding offensive skill set. And there, I'm sure, will be others. Another one that I'll be looking towards seeing again is Oscar Goodman, just had a very successful FIBA U17 World Cup, where he really made an impression on a lot of people. A versatile, big, strong, 6'7" forward that's skilled, will get downhill, can make shots, and will rebound for his position. So those are just several. I am expecting more to really hit the national scene, and for college fans like yourselves, will want to be following here in the weeks ahead.
All right, now, Boss, I want to ask you about another circuit that has gained some traction this year, and that's the Pro 16 circuit, which is sponsored by Puma. What can you tell us about some of the big names out there, whether it is players or teams you expect to contend for that championship?
Yeah, we're pretty excited with this next Pro 16 Puma circuit because it's going to be our first chance to see them. Deshaun London's going to be out there this weekend in Phoenix, and then I'm going to be heading to Indianapolis next weekend to see them. What's also going to be interesting to see is with them being outside of that triangle of all the other major events, and I'm not talking just outside, like as far away as you can possibly be, the head coaches who show up for guys on this one are going to be, it's going to be a clear sign that, hey, you're a priority. And we're talking about guys like Chris Senak, who recently vaulted up to number 14 in the country. He's been to Houston and LSU. Now he's got Arkansas, Kentucky, Kansas, you name it, is involved with him. Are any of the heavy hitter guys going to be out to see him? Because that'll give a real good indication of what he can do. So his YGC C36, sponsored by Marcus Smart team, is definitely one of the better teams. While I've not seen the circuit, I have seen that team. They are very good. Bug Edwards is one of the best shooters in the country on that team. And then you've got guys like Kingston Flemings, who ranks number 21 and has Texas Tech, Houston kind of in a dogfight for him. Who's going to really show up and prioritize him as their potential point guard of the future? Xavier Staten of the Las Vegas Knicks ranks number 22 overall for us. Travis and I recently saw him in Arizona at the Section 7 event, and he seemed to have the entire UNLV staff following him everywhere they went in a big fight to try and keep him home. He's a guy that's likely going to stay on the West Coast. Arizona's kind of making a move with him. UCLA, USC are right there. And then another one that's probably to stay on the West Coast, but is starting to get some more blue blood attention, is Nicholas Kamania of BTI. BTI, a strong team up and down, with him as their star. He's ranked number 27. He's been to Gonzaga for an official visit. He just got done playing for Tommy Lloyd on the USA Basketball U18 gold medal winning team in the FIBA Americas competition. He's got Arizona is now starting to make a move with him. UCLA is very strong with him. You've had North Carolina come in with a recent offer. Kentucky, Duke picking up interest. It's going to be really interesting to see which of these big name programs head coaches are going to get off the beaten path to go see these guys, because I think they've got a chance to make a real impression on a kid. Like, these guys get used to looking up in the stands and seeing all these head coaches playing for them, but I think it's going to be pretty easy to point out to these guys like how much more of an effort is going to need to be made to go see them, and that could really prove quite fruitful in recruitment.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, we have one more event left to preview, and that is the Nike Peach Jam, which is now also the EYBL Finals. And of course, this is, I don't think it's a stretch to say this is the most prestigious grassroots event of the summer. It has a history that is decades old, with numerous NBA players having played there, and it's a fixture. We know where it is every single year. It is right on that Augusta, Georgia, North Augusta, South Carolina line, and it really takes over that area for this year about 11 days. So while the recruiting period starts on Thursday, the play-in games at the Peach Jam are going to take place Friday, and then the Peach Jam itself will tip off on Saturday. They are going to play for 9 straight days in North Augusta before the EYBL champion is crowned for the 2024 season on the following Sunday, the last day of the live period. So while the recruiting period will break, the EYBL will not. They will play straight through and have 9 straight days, if I understand it correctly. So, guys, I know there's a ton of players to talk about here. Obviously, Cam Boozer and AJ DeBonsa, fresh off their gold medal with the USA basketball team. You have Tyron Stokes, who's teaming with AJ DeBonsa, Brandon McCoy, also among that team, some of the highest rated players in the country. This to me is the biggest storyline for the EYBL. The EYBL has been divided into 2 conferences after prestigious former executives with Nike, the Merit Conference and the Raveling Conference. In the Merit Conference, Knight Riders Elite is 14-1, Drive Nation is 11-4, and then the PSA Cardinals and Team Why Not are both 10-5. In the Raveling Conference, Team Takeover and the Oakland Soldiers are 14-1, while the City Rocks and Team Thad are 11-4. So you have to say the big storyline is, will we get the DeBonsa versus Boozer final if their 2 respective teams, Knight Riders Elite and Oakland Soldiers, can come out of this both 14-1 in the regular season and meet in the final? Obviously, that would be the storyline that everybody would be interested in. But we got 8 days of basketball before we get to that championship Sunday. So my question to both of you, whether it's based on what you've seen in the EYBL regular season or what you anticipate for this week, is there one player outside of maybe some of these big names that you're most intrigued to see how they perform in this Peach Jam setting? Bossi, I'll start with you, although I know your travels will not be bringing you to North Augusta this year.
Yeah, but all these games are going to be live streamed, and I'm certainly going to have some time at home where I'm going to be tuning in, no doubt. A guy that really is catching my attention more and more is Darius Adams of the PSA Cardinals. He's a guy that has really grown on me over the past year, both at La Lumiere High School during his junior season, and then this spring with PSA, and then also at the MBPA Top 100 camp. He's a long and rangy 6'5"-ish shooting guard who, I don't know if it's fair to call him a master of all trades, or a jack of all trades and a master of none, but he's really like the ultimate blend player. For his team, he plays a starring role, of course, and he's relied upon to get buckets and shoot from deep and get to the rim. But what I love about Adams is his ability to be super productive in a team setting and not have to go outside of it and force things to get his stuff, because that's going to really help him when he gets to the college level and potentially beyond, where he may not step into a role where he's the star, he's the guy who's expected to get all the points for a team. So I really like him, and I'm really curious to see who's going to really try and prioritize him now, because I think he's a guy, while he's been ranked among the national top 20, top 25 for quite some time now, I really think just how good he is and how impactful he could be at the college level, potentially beyond, has kind of flown under the radar.
All right, Trav, who are you most curious to see at the Peach Jam?
If we're going outside of the mainstream big name guys, it's CJ Ingram. We talked about him on the show last week. A kid that and was a dual athlete star. Father is Cornelius Ingram, played football and basketball at Florida, went on to play in the NFL, and CJ has recently decided to shift his focus into basketball, and he is just one of the best athletes in the entire country. And since he has shifted his focus on the basketball, he continues to prove every single week, it seems, whether it be his ball handling, his feel for the game, or even his shooting at this point. He's always been this run and jump athlete that's been excelled as a defender in transition score, but now everything else is really starting to come together for him. So he is one that is starting to now pick up a lot of high major interest. He's picked up a handful of high majors or high major offers in the last 2 weeks. And I would anticipate a lot of teams flocking to watch him and him reeling in many more offers. But on the mainstream, when we're talking about the top of the class, one kid I'm really looking forward to watching is Caleb Wilson. We got him ranked in the top 10. We've had him ranked in the top 10 for a very long time. But it's no secret. He has not had as strong of a summer that the entire industry has been wanting to see out of him, of a player with his level of talent. He switched over to Knight Riders, playing with Cam Boozer and Caden Boozer and just this loaded squad. And he's really trying to figure out who he is when he's playing alongside other talent and better players around him that's going out trying to win games. We've seen him go out and stuff the stat sheet with the Georgia Stars, but now that it's coming down to, all right, how do I play with a guy like Cameron Boozer or Caden Boozer who's bringing the ball up the floor? You got shooters and scorers on the perimeter and Alex Lloyd and Amari Allen. So where do I fit in? How can I contribute to this team? And he's really struggled to find that, and that's okay. But facing that adversity, every player has to at some point, and he's facing it now. So really curious to see how he responds to how he performed in May and also in June, and how he responds and comes out here at Peach Jam this weekend.
You know what, guys? For me, I didn't see as much of the EYBL regular season as I think you guys did, because I was, I got to Under Armour, I got to Adidas, and then I did both of the USA basketball sessions. I saw the live period in May for EYBL. So for me, this is about getting eyes on players that I haven't necessarily evaluated with the same amount of depth, maybe because they haven't been to either one of those USA basketball sessions. So like someone like Braden Burries, who I know has been putting up huge numbers, who, Boss, you've seen a ton of. I haven't gotten my eyes on him quite as much because I didn't do as much of the EYBL this regular season, and because he didn't go to either of the USA basketball sessions. So that's someone that I'm really curious. We've talked about him a ton on this program. We've seen the way his recruitment has evolved. His productivity over the last 6 months in particular has just been off the charts. But I just enjoy the process of being able to compare, as I said previously, the best players against each other, one game set after another, one day after another, and you get that consistent evaluation. So that's someone that I'm really going to be zeroed in on this week. All right. When it comes to predicting the EYBL champion for the class of 2024, Bossi, who do you like?
You know what? I'm going to go with the Knight Riders here, and I think we need to take a second and take a step back about where this would place them among the annals of all-time great grassroots teams if they pull this off. We're talking about a team that won the Peach Jam at the 15U level. They won it at the 16U level. And now they've got an opportunity to win into the 17U level. And now they did add Caleb Wilson here recently, which is going to be interesting because that could potentially upset the apple cart a little bit. But what's so fascinating about this group to me is these guys have been playing together with very little roster change for a long time. I'm talking before 15, 16, 17U, as elementary school kids. These guys have been playing together and stay together. And it's just not often that you see a team keep the main sum of its parts for that long and achieve this level of success. So if they pull off winning all three age groups of the Peach Jam with one team, it's something that's pretty unprecedented and would have to place them among the top 5, top 10 individual grassroots teams that I've certainly seen in my 25 years of covering the sport.
All right. So if they do this, we are going to do a show, or at least a segment, on Bossi's top grassroots teams of the top 20 of the last 25 years. I think that'd be awesome. I can't bet against the Knight Riders. I can't bet against Cam Boozer. And the supporting cast is awesome. His brother Caden, one of the most efficient guards in the country. We talked about Caleb, and Dante Allen. There's Alex Lloyd. There's other guys there. I mean, you got a high major guy at each position, and as you said, they've got the continuity factor. But I will name some others, other contenders. Trav, who else do you like though? Before I rattle off some of the other potential contenders.
Yeah, I think the biggest competition that they're going to face, I mean, I see a pretty clear path for them to make it to the Peach Jam title game. Now, depending on who their competition is in that championship, if they face the Oakland Soldiers, that's the one team I think can give them the biggest run for their money, just from a sheer. Now, like as Bossi saying, these kids have played together. They're very well coached. They all know each other's games inside and out. They know what they're doing every single possession out on the court. But from a sheer talent perspective, the Oakland Soldiers will be able to give them a run for their money. You got AJ DeBanza and Tyron Stokes, number one players in each of their respective classes at this moment. Tyron is having an absolute monster summer with the Soldiers. There's been times I've watched them. Tyron's been the best player out on the court, even with AJ as his teammate. And that's not to knock AJ, but just Tyron has just been on a mission this summer, playing hard every single possession, getting downhill, just imposing his will, just as a physical specimen and athlete out on the court, improving as a shooter. And they also got some good pieces around them. A guy like Lino Mark, big time defender that's very disruptive, a guy that could really cause some fits for a guy like Caden Boozer, bringing up the ball. Won't allow him to just kind of get where he wants to on the court. So you're looking at a team that can to knock them out. If you let Tyron Stokes and AJ DeBanza go, you let them get hot one time, they can give you some trouble.
All right, guys, the last team I'm going to shout out is the defending champs, and that's Team Takeover. They are also 14-1, a vastly different roster than last year. But when it comes to continuity, this is a program that has, not just with this team, but over the years, has been as good as anyone for an extended period of time. I think they have one of the best backcourts in all of grassroots basketball. Jordan Smith, who's just a rising junior, he's a top 10 player in the class. But Nick Lewis and Derek Dixon, who teamed together at Gonzaga High School in Washington, D.C., again form a potent 1-2 punch in the backcourt for Team Takeover. You got Christian Gerdak, who committed to Virginia Tech last week. So you've got high majors floor. These kids have played together, not just during the EYBL season, but a lot of them have played together during the high school season as well. And their continuity goes back for years. 14-1, and they are last year's defending champion. There is a standard with that program, and they're looking to be the spoiler here. Everybody wants to see the Soldiers versus the Knight Riders, but Team Takeover is very much looking to be a spoiler. I'll tell you what, we are going to have content and coverage from all 5 of these events and more at 247sports.com. We'll have subsequent shows on the road as well here on the 24/7 Sports channel. So make sure you're following us on all of those platforms, including the CBS Sports app. Again, CBS Sports app, 247sports.com, and the 24/7 Sports channel. It's going to be a busy month, and we're looking forward to recapping it all for you on these platforms.